Howdy, folks.
Doing good.
Hey. It's just you and me, Steve. Okay.
So far, we'll make all the decisions.
So good. Yeah. Yeah, I will take all the decisions. That's great. I think that Matthias will not join. I heard from him he's ill today, so he will probably not join. I haven't heard from anyone else. Have you heard from anyone?
I think Tracy's going to join.
Okay. Let's see if she shows up.
Yeah, she's just wrapping something up on another meeting.
Hello.
Hi, Tracy.
How's life?
Life's quite okay. We still have summertime in Sweden. 2 more days, then it's autumn.
We
According to the forecast.
Autumn showed up for us today. It's cool out for the first time in a while. It's like, oh, I need a hoodie today.
Yeah.
I'll be right
But you're
back.
not affected by any hurricanes, are you? Yet?
No, but we do get moisture. So we have had a really good monsoon season. We don't have to worry about Ida. And it looks like New Orleans, thank God, held up. This was our first test of the new weather system that they put in after Hurricane Katrina, and it looks like it held up.
So they managed to get a stand against it.
Yeah, because I think that they are below sea level.
Parts of New Orleans are.
Yeah.
Just as Netherlands here in Europe. Yeah.
Yep, and in Katrina, all the levee system just broke. I mean, literally, it just crumbled.
Right.
They spent billions of dollars on fixing it. Over
$5 billion.
Oh.
But it's that $5 billion that's a lot less than the alternative.
Okay, sure. Of course.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but when you think about all the homes and lives, it's not a lot.
But they still have a pretty big rescue starting now that it's daylight.
But we don't have, they don't have the kind of flooding. It's just mainly trees, roofs, normal things from high winds and lots of water. The scary part was people drowning. I mean, it's what happened in in Katrina. People, they couldn't, it would be like the ocean just consuming the entire city in the real low-lying areas, and all the low-lying areas, of course, are the poor areas, which just seems so unfair.
Yeah, of course. It sounds really tough. Okay, should we start off maybe? It doesn't look like we're getting any more interested
we'll see who shows up. Maybe this will be easy for a naming exercise, right?
Yeah, let's decide on a name between us three, right? No, so let's kick off. As you see, Andrea is not here, and I heard he's still on paid time leave, so he will not join us. I guess he will come back on Wednesday, 1st of September, I guess.
Okay.
So that's why I'm here, and I haven't talked to him since he left for vacation either.
Okay.
So my action from last time there is not done.
Okay.
Then updates on the SIG events itself. Well, of course, we have the protocol naming discussion, and that was also, I think, maybe not brought up so much in the vocabulary meeting last week. I wasn't there actually, but I think you were there, Steve, right?
Yeah, we brought it up a couple times, and but we've been kind of postponing until we get everybody in the same room to kind of sign off on what we have on the going on in that discussion.
Exactly.
So I think that is like one of the next things that we need to get taken care of.
Yeah.
Especially since we have like KubeCon and what's the other one,
Mhm.
DevOps World, those things coming out that we can then say that we have a name and we can reference things based on that name. So
Right, and we have some pressure from Captain guys as well to set a name so they can start, so we can set up a repository and a project for them so they can start setting up dependencies towards a real thing as well. But I would propose then that we try to nail down that discussion on our next SIG meeting in 2 weeks. And I hope that Andrea will be there as well. And I will make sure that we send out a mail to the group so everyone that is interested at least comes. So that they are aware of that we will try at least to make a decision on the next SIG meeting.
yeah,
but until then, I guess
I would put in your email that we are going to make a decision on that on the next SIG meeting and kind of force the issue.
Yeah, sounds good. But until then, I guess we should continue the discussion in the GitHub discussion that exists. So there is a discussion for it. And yeah, there hasn't been too much activity in this one, but anyone, you guys here, or if anyone's watching the recording, please go there and involve yourself.
Yeah, for some reason there was another, I don't know if that's the same one. Let me jump
Or is it another discussion thread as well?
That's I'm just double checking that one.
It's important. I think we had it. Yeah, there was a chat in Slack as well.
Oh, here it is. It's the last comment on that one. With
in
the yeah, with the summary of the
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, it's all there.
Yeah, good. So do you think we should add anything to the protocol for this meeting, or do you want to say anything about the name more that we should note down now, or should we?
I have really noodled on this quite a bit in my head. Like I finally woke up in the morning and I realized the name that I like the best for the listener itself. I know. Okay. I have gone through, I spent about I don't know, a half a day going through books like this one, this Words That Sell, or you can't see it because of the way I've Words That Sell. So I think, you know, in terms of the group itself, I still think CD Events is the cleanest and shortest and easiest thing to use, the movement itself. It's simple, it gets to the point, everybody will understand what it is. So I think that is the cleanest and easiest one. Now for the listener and for the project itself, for building out the listener, that was the one that I tried to think, I thought on the most. I went through words like kinetic, something that's in perpetual motion. I thought about all kinds of different ways to represent something other than continuous, like kinetic delivery. And what I realized is that this is a complicated subject, and people are struggling with really understanding it in the first place, are used to doing, you know, kind of imperative scripted CD pipelines. So we need to make it friendly, and we need to make it feel easy, and we need to create, you know, I started thinking about our listener in terms of a robot. And I got into watching Boston Dynamics, and I've really gotten attached to both Atlas and Spot as the robots. And I realized that they're making robots really approachable. So I thought we should name our robot, and our robot is our listener. And the name I came up with is Evie. And we could spell it out as a name, Evie, or we could just use Evie, and that, you know, kind of talks about events, because that's really where it came from. And the I would make the logo and the brand as simple as possible. And I would put the brand, the logo. I'm thinking about how Jenkins became hugely popular, and people really relate to the Jenkins image. So Evie could be a girl, and I like the idea of using a girl as the image because it does fit into the efforts that we're trying to do on the diversity side. Listening to headphones. And it could be as easy as just a round face with 2 closed eyes and a ponytail, and she's got headphones on because Evie is really our listener. Evie itself is not an event, it's a listener. And so that is what I came up with in the time that I took in looking at words and looking at synonyms and looking at all the things that people had put out there to try to think about how we could represent it. And I tried to make it as approachable and as simple and as easy as possible, where I could imagine people sitting in a room and talking about, the Evie listener. Have you integrated into Evie? And I felt like it was that was the best I could do. And I kind of liked it. I actually felt when I started thinking about it, and I really thought about it for a while before I brought it up, I thought it could be a really, really fun way of representing the listener.
Great. I just tried to write down what you said. I'm sorry I didn't make it justice.
It's okay. That's okay.
And you can change it, whatever. Great. So I think it's good to have it noted what you more or less said. Otherwise, of course, people should look into this video to understand the the description behind it.
Yeah,
but please also add it to the GitHub discussion if you could. That would be great to see some arguments there.
I will put it out there with some ideas of what the images would look like of our little robot listener we call Evie.
That's great.
It's hard. It's hard to come up with a approachable kind of name for a project like that. Believe me, it took forever when we did Artilius. I worked on it quite some time to come up with that. The other problem with this stuff is that so much is already taken. So we have to have a GitHub repository that the name's not used. And some of the more cool kind of technical names, like I looked up the Greek word for kinetic, and it's kinetico, which I kind of liked, but I think it's too complex. And we already have a complex problem, so we have to represent it, I feel like, with something simple and approachable.
Yeah, I like it.
So I'll write it. I'll put it out on the discussions now that I've talked about it, and give some ideas of what that brand could look like.
Sure. Great. And you are right enough, Steve, right?
Yeah, I'm just adding some extra things in there.
Yeah, good, perfect, thanks.
I happen to have it up, so might as well.
Yeah, that's great. I don't think we need to say much more about that. I think that was very good, Tracy. So let's leave it there.
Thank you.
And I think the way we need to, basically, I think we need to separate out the overall protocol. CD events, I think is, from the protocol standpoint, makes sense. And then when we get into, how it works, that's where we get into having like Evie in place. So I think we need to have the separation.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the listener we need either. We need some kind of, we need SDKs probably to send these events. So we need maybe some helper tool to send them, even maybe a standalone microservice or something to send the events as well.
Yep.
So there could be more tools or more robots in this robot family or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Great.
I know on the Ortelius side, one of the I believe it was Adam Gardner from the Captain Project, is asking us around events for deployments and deployment completion. So on the Ortelius project, we're starting those discussions to get the requirements. So once we get further along, we'll bring that over to this project once we understand the requirements.
Yep. Great. And the data involved and those things, I guess. So.
Yeah, exactly. What we need to handle.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah.
The one question that came up, and I can't remember how this is being handled. I'm still trying to get the requirements. Is how are events secured? So let me give you an example. Let's say you do a Git, you do a PR merge on a private repo, and that's going to you know, send out an event. How is the authentication handled so only certain people can see that event, or you know, or get notified of that event? So that was one thing that we are looking at to understand is, you know, you don't want anybody to deploy an application to production, so there has to be some sort of security around the events when you go to listen and to send them. So that was one thing that came up in our discussions that we had to understand.
I guess I could have two comments there. When it comes to deploying to production, I guess the access to the actual image repository would guard you from deploying things that you should not be able to deploy as well. You could, of course, have like branches in your image repository, maybe that have different accesses, and you can have like a staging area and a production area that is okay to download or whatever for more people, maybe. Maybe that's one way to tackle that problem. And regarding who should be able to listen to what, I guess you who are sending an event, you should decide by some, I mean, we should probably standardize on some, I don't know, routing key or something for the message envelope or such, which would help message brokers to see, should we propagate these kinds of events or not to the next more central domain or whatever. I guess we will have like islands of internal domains where events are sent, and then some more or less official events or public events should leak between those domains, but maybe not all of them. So there we could maybe have some kind of private event handling handle. If you would use a message bus like a RabbitMQ, you could have set it up with routing keys probably to see what kind of events should be federated out from this internal domain to the outside world or something like that. So I think that there are ways to tackle it. We use in Ericsson, we use events a lot, and we don't have these security limitations between the organizations in Ericsson. So we don't really restrict the federations, at least not that much yet, based on routing keys. But I see the possibility to do it, at least. So that's one way to do it. But there might be others, of course, as well.
Sorry, we lost you.
Oh,
Our whole
Where?
like the last 4 minutes, it kicked us out of Zoom altogether.
I got to RabbitMQ and then it disappeared.
Sorry.
Oh, he's
okay.
gone.
Yeah. Am I back? Am I here? No, I'm gone again. I hear you and I see you. Strange.
That's it. Yeah, I think it was just on our side.
Okay. Am I
But we're
back
good.
now? Or?
We're good. Yeah, we're good now. We're all better.
Yes. Yeah, thanks. So should I repeat it then? Or will you listen to the
Yes.
recording?
I'll
No,
listen to the
We
recording.
can listen to the recording.
Yeah,
No, but that's fine.
we're still having problems, so.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so should we stop the meeting then, or?
That
Should
was the
we-
only thing I wanted to bring up, was that the Artilius project is has some requirements gathering around events. So
Right.
look for that in the next couple of weeks.
Yep, yep. Should we try to continue, or is the quality too bad to continue, or?
We're now fine. You know,
Yeah.
I think it might have been our, no, on our side, our bandwidth, because I was uploading our
Okay.
earlier recording, so I think it's done now.
Okay, I don't see any problem on my side so far, but apart from your video is not shared, but maybe that's intentional.
No,
Yeah,
I did. I
Whatever.
turned off the video.
That's fine. That's no problem. So let's continue then, yeah, I just summarize. We have ways to deal with the federations of messages or events that we use in Ericsson. That could probably be used for those authentications and security concerns you raised there, Steve.
Yeah, I
just to
figured there's
start
going
with.
to be some sort of, like you said, for lack of a better word, some sort of token or something that's going to get passed around that we can use. That's not going to expose user ID passwords and things like
Right.
that.
So we can deal with access control to the image repositories that way, for example, so that just the authenticated or the authorized people can access to download and deploy certain images.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Great. So let's go on. I happened to listen to the CDF podcast the other week, or maybe some days ago, where Shipwright was introduced. I don't know if you listened to it as well.
Yep.
But I heard that they actually reached out, or they maybe not reached out, but they said they wanted to settle on events for their artifacts being created or binaries being built. And I actually reached out to the Shipwright dev community, and they responded that they want to be involved in our SIG as well.
Great.
So I hope that they will join.
Yeah, me
anyway.
too.
I was actually hoping they should join today, but apparently they didn't.
Yeah, I think
We're still at the end of the, this is our last, even here, this is our last week of kind of vacation. Labor Day is this coming weekend, and then everybody's back to work.
Great, great.
and
So next time everyone is on board.
I think the person from Shipwright is on the TOC for the CD Foundation.
Yes, let me
I
see.
can't think of his name. I want to say James.
I can tell you right in a second here.
I can try to find the mail I got from him.
But I'll make sure that he knows about it.
Adam Kaplan was the one who responded to my mail. And I believe
Okay.
Adam was also part of that podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, who is it that wrote it?
Adam Kaplan.
I don't know that name. I think it's Jason Hall.
Jason Hall's with Red Hat. It didn't come from Red Hat, did it?
Yes. Yeah,
Then that's who it is. It's Jason Hall you're talking about, Steve.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
Shipwright came out of Red Hat.
Yeah.
And it's basically another way to build the container images. So I think it's going to be a good fit to get their input, especially around the build and push area and kind of the discussions that we had last week. I believe it was in the vocabulary meeting around repository events, Docker artifact repository events, not source events.
Yeah, right. I think I also made a comment in that vocabulary mom actually minutes document on this. And And I had also heard that Shipwright is actually using Tecton to build certain things or to run its pipelines, right? And maybe we have some kind of good way forward there as well, then to quickly make a POC, since we already have Tecton in the POC for the events right now.
Yeah, I think it was the other way around, where Shipwright has created a set of tasks for Tecton, so they can fit into Tecton that way. But don't quote me on
maybe
that.
Could be so. But still, I think there is a possibility to use the synergy there, that we already have parts implemented. Yeah, so let's see where we end up with that cooperation. That will be interesting.
And I pulled up, while we were talking, I pulled up a potential, let me share it real quick. Here is, where's my, I don't know. Oh, there it is. Share screen. I'm going to push you off.
Oh, sure, of course. You can steal it, no problem.
Share screen. There's my prototype for a brand.
Way.
And we could probably play with this even and make it cleaner.
That's Evie.
That's Evie.
Nice.
I think we need to create something specific, but that's just kind of a prototype of what it could look like. And this is we could do this easy in black and white. And if we did it right, we could always make her, you think about like one time we were at GitHub Universe, and they have their Octocat. And there was a place you could go and customize what your Octocat looked like. So when we create these kinds of kind of human logos, I think people have fun with them. I know our alien has started quite an adventure in Artelius.
Yeah. So it should either be an alien or a robot or a humanoid or.
Yes, exactly. I mean, just think about Jenkins. How everybody loves that Jenkins logo and they relate to it.
Yeah. And you immediately see that it's some kind of Jenkins-y thing. If you have this butler, something that corresponds to a butler.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is when I said we should have something like a butler, and it was like, but it's a listener, it's not a butler. So what do we do? And then I started thinking about somebody wearing headphones.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure, great, nice. Yeah.
So chew on that. Think about it.
Of course, yeah, will do. Do you want to share the screen, or do you have it?
No, that was it.
Yeah, I can share it. Or we just keep it as it is. So I wrote down some comments from last week's vocabulary minutes, even though I wasn't there. I took some of the comments that were written, and maybe I thought that someone here on the meeting could maybe explain more if needed, but now you're the only one, Steve, who was there. I saw that it was discussed on webhooks versus event sending from the SCM systems or other repository managers and such.
Right.
So do you have any comments on that?
The discussions around more specifically on the artifact repositories, that the artifact repositories, depending on which one that you're working with, they send out their completions events differently over different protocols. So if you're and some of them don't send them out at all. So some of the things, like when you talk like about a Docker hub, they will implement a webhook as well as I believe a GRCP type of protocol. So that was where we got into discussions around handling the different vendors out there, for lack of a better word, how to, basically the decision was made to, we'll need to have some sort of plugin or something to a, like Docker Hub, for example. And then when we have that, that plugin into Docker Hub, that the consensus was that when we get an event from Docker Hub, whether it's a webhook or a GRCP, that would be transformed, would have a transformer that would then transform it into a cloud event. And then from there, the cloud event would be sent out to everybody else. So it was a proxy type of a proxy with the transform as part of the process.
Yeah, if I should only provide my 5 cents on that discussion, I think that, I mean, we have had similar discussions for our events in Ericsson as well. I mean, who should send the event and who should actually, who should be the source, so the transmitter of any event. And one general rule of thumb that we have come to is that the instance that actually performs the operation that the event is about should also, as long as it's decent and possible, should also send the event, which means that if a builder tool builds an artifact, then the builder tool should send the event saying, now there is a new artifact. And if an artifact repository manager finds out that a new artifact has been uploaded to it, then it should send out the event saying, hey, I've got a new artifact uploaded to me with this ID or whatever and version. So that's maybe just one concern about that. But I agree that it might not be suitable for like global deployments to have each such repository send events on some kind of global message bus for these kinds of events. So maybe that idea doesn't really hold when we come to the global scale that we do here.
Yeah, and that's part of the question that was raised. If, let's say for Docker Hub, that you have your project that's been uploaded to Docker Hub, as the owner of that project, do you want to really be managing everybody that wants to listen to that upload? You know, so
No.
There has to be another way to deal with a global scale of setting up how you register to listen.
Yeah, and then the idea there would be then that the Docker Hub would have its own message bus, message domain, or whatever we would call it, and it would send more or less all its upload events to that domain, and then whoever is interested could subscribe to messages from that domain somehow, or should have federation set up to its own, I don't know, message broker of some kind.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, that's for public events, of course.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where the proxy idea came into play, and also the proxy with the transform came into play, where you don't have the originating tool emitting cloud events yet.
Yeah.
That we know, because we came up with a list of probably about 25 different tools just within 15 minutes that we know that we'd have to be interacting with, and a lot of those have webhooks, but not all of them. You know.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess webhooks is a more standardized way today, at least. But we never know. Maybe this event protocol will be the standard for in
Exactly,
the future.
And I think in the future, I think it
but
makes
until then,
more
of course,
sense. Yeah.
Until then. And but anyway, as close as possible to the source then, and also I think the idea is that the events should have a timestamp on them when that should be as close to the original timestamp when the actual event occurred in the system as possible.
Yeah.
As well, so that you can more or less rely on the timestamp for the event, saying that this was uploaded at blah 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 that time.
Yeah, because if you think about, let's say we take an example like the Alpine base image for Docker. There are hundreds of thousands of people that are consuming the Alpine base image that may want to listen to get notified that the base image has a security fix in it, that somebody just rebuilt the base Alpine image, and because of that, I should then trigger my pipeline to go consume the new version of that image as part of my my CI pipeline.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so there's that, you know, that's going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people listen, you know, has the potential to listen for a new Alpine update.
Yeah, and if that would be REST calls from that repository, then that repository would need to make hundreds of thousands REST calls from itself to each of these listeners. Otherwise, if it was just one message that was distributed for each new upload, then the repository manager could only send one event, and then of course it could be distributed to 100,000 different listeners. If
Yeah,
the message broker and operations was set up that way.
Exactly. So I think from an architectural standpoint, we just have to think about how we can deal with that scale.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's more when we come to like deployment and the infrastructure of this event system, more or less the ecosystem around these events. It's not really related to the event protocol itself.
No, but I think it'll I think they're going to play hand in hand.
Of course, yeah.
You know, there's going to be, like I said, when you get into kind of like what we were getting into is when you look at the security around that. You know, if you have a restricted repository that you want to make sure that you know, and this is where I'm not sure if the event gets sent out anyways, and you still have to validate, you know, authenticate with, if you want to get information about the event or how we handle that, but that's going to come into play when we talk about it as part of the scaling problem as well.
Yeah. And of course, if a repository manager would need to send REST calls or perform REST calls to a multitude of receivers, it would also need to store or handle the credentials to be able to send or to be able to create those REST calls, because most probably many of those receivers will require authentication as well. So there will need to be some ticket handling or token handling there as well.
Exactly. And if you have, you know, like Docker Hub trying to send to a listener in a private network, how's that going to you know, from that standpoint. So I have a feeling that we're going to be looking at more of a polling method, which isn't optimal, but or something that way, so you don't have to have, you know, inbound ports open and firewall rules in place to deal with inbound events coming in.
Yeah, or you could do as I guess message brokers do, that they set up a channel, a listener channel through SSH or something to a certain sender, which could then send the events on that channel, that secure channel.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's initiated from the local network out instead of the other way around.
Yeah, so that's just some of the things that we came up with around that topic. It needs to be, we have to dive into it further, but just to give you a kind of taste of what we've run into.
Very interesting topics, many of these, and yeah, for sure, we will need to discuss them further on.
And then also around that is, you know, how do you subscribe? You know, there's going to be some sort of persistence needed when you wanted to subscribe to a public event. You know, it kind of has to be self-managed where you can go subscribe, but at the same time, you know, if you have 100,000 people subscribing to an Alpine update, you know, how do you manage that persistence of keeping track of who's interested in this event?
Yeah, and who actually received it, and who do I need to retransmit that event to, or something, or that call to, or something as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of issues in that area. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
You need some dedicated infrastructure manager for that, I guess, somehow.
Well, that's what was brought up. You know, does the CD Foundation really want to be running a global event bus for the whole world?
Probably not.
And yeah, that's what we decided.
But I bet Elon Musk would like to do it, right?
Yeah.
Elon Musk could do it, but maybe not CDF.
Right.
Yeah. He will deploy it on the new space station or something.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll pass that topic over to Elon Musk to fix.
Yeah. I hope he listens to this recording.
What is it called? Constellation?
It's called Starlink.
Starlink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just put a note and assign it to Elon to fix that one.
Yeah.
You know his signal or his mail address?
Yeah.
We can invite him to our Slack channel. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Tell him it's open. It's an open source project.
Yeah. I guess he likes open source, so that's fine. Okay, next topic I read about there was standard or not, if it should be just a plain project, just as cloud events apparently is, or if it should be like a standard more. I guess SPDX is more of a standard thing, isn't it? While cloud events is not a standard, apparently, for some reason.
Yeah, there was another one that kind of got thrown in there was, okay, so there's a standard, a specification, and then a project. And I think SPDX is a specification where cloud events may be leaning towards a standard. And I think overall, the project gives us the most flexibility to start with. And if we need to kind of push out of the project a specification that we would go and, you know, go into the formal process, you know, like SPDX did. I mean, SPDX has been working on their specification for 10 years. So I think we should start with a project initially.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
Just gives us the most flexibility.
I don't think we're going to be a standard.
No, at least not if cloud events is not a standard. We can't really standardize on top of cloud events if that's not a standard.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then there was something that should be brought to this meeting. I just copied the text there. More big players involved. Is Shipwright considered a big player? Maybe not, but Red Hat?
Not, it's, you know, it's a fairly decent sized project within Red Hat, I believe. I think that, well, I mean, this is a thing with the CD Foundation. Ortelius was the first open source project that they brought in that was outside of the realm of an orchestration tool. So I think we should give them as much love as possible, actually. Because I think that they will be, you know, certainly if they build some events for building containers, it'll only help, right?
We had this girl here half a year ago from Fedora, I believe it was, wasn't it? And she was also making a presentation on CDCon in June.
Oh, that was
What's her name now?
Tracy Miranda.
No,
No, it wasn't
no.
Tracy. Someone from Red Hat,
Oh.
from the Fedora project in Red Hat.
Yes, that was, God, what
What
is
is-
her name?
Yeah, I reached out to her the other, or sometime. I don't know. Alexandra Fedorova. I
That's
have her in
it.
my chat.
Yes, that's it.
Alexandra Fedorova. Yeah. So she has been here once or twice on the SIG meetings, but it was quite some time ago. And I remember I had a chat with her, I think before the summer. And she actually wanted to come back, but she didn't have time at that time, I believe, if I understood it correctly. So she's at all, I mean, at least aware of us, and she has been here as well.
So I would say that we get the naming figured out. We get and once we have the naming figured out, then we can go and get the organization, the GitHub organization created. Get some of the repos kind of moved around. And then the next step would be to, then I've told the CDF TOC about the events wanting to become a project of some sort or specification. They're all on board with that. So I think we just need, I think we're a little early. I think we just need to get some stuff, our ducks in a row. And then once we have that, then we can do a bigger outreach.
Yep, sounds perfect to me.
And I don't think we're that far off. Maybe a month, maybe, a couple meetings, and then I think we'll be pretty close to being where we want to be to then have the CD Foundation and, the whole KubeCon piece, announcing that. So I think we should target a bunch of stuff before KubeCon.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
That's just my opinion on that.
I agree. So that moves us, I guess, on to the conferences or meetups item in the agenda, where I just pasted that we have a slot on KubeCon for the events booth or CDF virtual booth. I don't have more information about that. I guess you might have more, Tracy, on it, or how does that work?
I don't, all I know is right now is that we have it. I grabbed a time slot. It was like as the earliest time slot I could get. And I sent in names, and those of us who are going to be on that should get some kind of an invite. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will
It's
become
a
clear
virtual
when
booth.
it.
You don't need to be there in person, because I guess KubeCon will also be on site, right? Both, or
it is. It's both on site and it's virtual. I don't know how it's going to work, but
yeah.
I have no idea if the CDCon or the CD Foundation's booth will have us on a monitor so that you could go to the booth and you can talk to us. I have no idea how they're doing it. I'm looking forward to seeing it though.
It would be very interesting. I hope I can join at least and come to the booth. But I cannot promise to stand in the booth, I'm afraid.
We're not going to be there in person ourselves.
No, but I mean, even virtually, I can't really, maybe at least not today, I can't really sign up to say that I will be there, but I hope I can.
Why can you not? Because of the time problem, or?
No, I haven't checked my private schedule since this is evening time for me. I need to check my private schedule if it works or not.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 6 p.m. in Sweden. Yeah. No, but that's great that we have that opportunity.
Yep.
And apart from that, on KubeCon, I haven't seen, is the schedule set yet? Talks and presentations defined, or?
For KubeCon, I don't think I've seen an agenda quite yet. I know, well, I got one talk accepted for GitOpsCon. I didn't get anything accepted for KubeCon, and I haven't seen an official agenda published yet. But maybe They
but
do have one.
It is a schedule, it seems. So we have the CI/CD track, it seems here, with Andrea is giving a talk. Right. I think I
Great,
know.
great. That's good. One of us got in there.
Exactly. That's perfect. Using content. Yeah, that's perfect. So he will talk about SIG events. That's great. I should add this to the protocol. I don't know how I missed that. That's great. Okay. Next topic is blog posts and links. I haven't seen anything, and I haven't heard that we are expected to do something. Should we? Or of course, as soon as we have a name, maybe that's a channel we should use to set up the CDF blog post for it.
Yep. Yeah, we gotta well, if we, I think I don't know what, do we have to have projects or do we have to have a GitHub repository for both the protocol that we're talking about? And instead of calling ourselves Events SIG, we would start calling ourselves the new name like CD Events. But the GitHub project would have to be the listener name, right?
Well, there's going to be, the GitHub organization name
would be the highest, like the CD events, and then a project would be like Evie.
Evie would be a project,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay.
In there.
Yeah.
I think so.
All right.
Yeah, and then in that you could have like a repo for the protocol standard, which would be, we could do a markdown, a Hugo markdown, so we can actually publish kind of like documentation that way. That's what we did with our Ortelius, was all of our documentation is markdown. That's focused around the Hugo server. Right. So you end up building your website and your documentation that way. So you still have your whole PR process to do updates to the documentation, but it makes it easier than trying to do like a shared Google Doc or something like that, or a GitHub wiki, those type of things. We found it was just easier to go that route. But that's what I would recommend, that we would have those type of things. And then you can have a website repo, and that will be one of the things that we'll have the CDF stand up some of that stuff for us.
Yep. Good. So I think there will be probably multiple repositories in that organization. Of course, the listener will be there, but there will also probably be like maybe some kind of protocol tools, or of course maybe a sender or SDKs for sending these events, or different kinds of maybe persistent store plugins or whatever that are needed to deal with the event.
Exactly. And then we'll probably want to do and I don't know if this is if we'd want to do some sort of like Swagger, where you could do your definition of the JSON payload, and then you could have a way to try it, that type of documentation around the event.
I guess we should have a kind of like a sandbox project in there as well, that you can try out yourself and run a small system with this event somehow.
Exactly.
Easily put up in a Minikube environment or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, sounds good. And we could have that project in the same GitHub organization.
Yep.
just a few minutes left. I reached out to some guy in Argo Events before the summer actually, and at that time I asked him to present to us today, but due to different reasons it was postponed. So next time we will have a presentation on Argo Events from Derek Wang.
Excellent.
At least according to the schedule.
Perfect.
So apart from the naming discussion next week, no, sorry, in 2 weeks, I guess we will have the Argo Events presentation, but I hope that the rest of the meeting will be dedicated to the naming discussion so we can try to nail that down.
Yep.
So I'll try to talk to Andrea now in the meantime before the next SIG meeting so we can prepare for it and send out mails and such. Try to prepare for setting a name.
Okay, and I put my my thoughts in the discussion thread.
Yeah, perfect. I see you've written something there. Yay, there she is.
There
Evie.
she is, Evie. I know. I love the name Evie. I became very attached to it, and then I started calling it Evie. It was like, God, that really catches on fast.
So I guess I should say that I envy your image skills.
Oh, I
for
just, you
Evie.
know what, I pulled this off of iStock, and I just looked for something to prototype it from. We would have to have some, we have to have something that's simple and kind of looks like, you know, other women that we know in technology, right?
I guess we need to create the artwork originally ourselves.
Yeah, we could. I'm sure we can find someone to do something for us.
Yeah, I guess that's possible.
Yeah, it's gonna be it would be a simple image.
I think the Linux Foundation can do that for us.
Yeah.
Great, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Tracy.
All right. So, thank you, guys.
Anything else? Yeah. No. Anything else for today, or are we done?
I think that does it for me.
Yeah. Good discussions.
Yeah, the three of us. Got a lot done.
Great. Thank you for joining.
All right.
Take care. Very lonely to be here by myself, so thank you for joining.
No problem.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.